This is Paul Thomas, Senior Editor of Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Magazine, and I'm talking today with Ken Appel, who is with Vizela now, correct?
Yes, it's still Veriteq, but a Vizela company, and this just happened this month, and it's a union of two great companies in the environmental measurement world.
Mm-hmm. And that gives us the opportunity then to move right in and talk a little bit about environmental monitoring controlled environments. Mm-hmm. What are really the biggest challenges these days that you're hearing from clients?
Well, from the biggest challenges, of course, we work in regulated applications, so the challenges are twofold. One is how not to lose some very valuable product in terms of where things are stored, mm-hmm. and secondly, how to either avoid or mitigate FDA observations when they do come to inspect. Mm-hmm. Because the whole organization has to mass all their resources when there is an inspection, mm-hmm. and anybody can obviously look on the FDA site to find out who's getting inspected where and what the consequences are for those observations.
So obviously you don't want a 483 and you don't want FDA to give you a slap on the wrist or anything. What are you recommending to manufacturers in terms of what FDA wants to know and is looking for and how they can best prepare themselves?
Mm-hmm. Okay, good question. The preparation, actually, the FDA itself is trying to be much more transparent and actually an assist to organizations and to improve their quality systems. Mm-hmm. So they actually publish how to approach an observation, but we've also put together an article and a summary of these some of these points, which are primarily is, of course, now you only have 15 days to respond. So you have to really focus in on, first of all, understanding what the observations are, and also responding specifically to how they might have occurred and what you're going to do to prevent them in the future. A lot of the observations, as I said, are preventable because primarily if most companies follow the CGMP regulations, they should be pretty good. Mm-hmm. However, organizations, they expand, they grow, they shrink, and quality systems change. I mean, look at Toyota. Toyota is the premier quality car manufacturer in the world, but yet when you take your eye off the quality systems, things go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Now, FDA, under its new science and risk-based initiative, is really giving manufacturers a little bit more lenience to decide themselves how they're going to control their environments, correct? So does that then open the door for manufacturers to have some uncertainty as to what's proper or what's best practice?
Well, I don't think that the change has been in the leniency of how, because like all regulatory bodies, they try actually to be somewhat vague in their regulations. They talk about what's needed, but not necessarily how to. And that's where manufacturers like Veriteq come into play, because we have a lot of experience in different applications. And one of the key points that I mentioned before about not losing product and the audits, FDA is really looking for, do you have the proper processes, do you have the proper documentation, and are you monitoring the correct parameters?
Let's talk a little bit about some of the typical, the typical parameters that you are monitoring: temperature, humidity, pressure. What's new in terms of this? What's new in terms of technology, and also maybe if you can touch on wireless and how the manufacturers are adopting wireless technologies?
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, Veriteq has always been involved in very high accuracy measurements, and particularly when it comes to audits, you want to make sure that you have a continuous record of everything that's happened in that controlled environment. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is in many systems, and I'll get back into why wireless versus wired. Wireless is kind of the new pixie dust. Everyone wants to go wireless. Mm-hmm. But in fact, wireless has a lot of uncertainty and reliability issues. Mm-hmm. Wireless is data traveling through the air.
Right.
And you put up, even in an open warehouse, you put up wireless access points, line of sight, no obstacles, and then all of a sudden companies are putting gel packs in racks blocking the signal, and you lose signal. Losing signal means there's a data gap.
Right.
And what Veriteq does, our technology does, I'll show you an example, and that is every measurement point is captured at the point of measurement with an internal memory, with a 10-year battery, and that way it's hooked to the network, but if the network is interrupted or power fails, it's continually collecting data, and then when facilities come back online, it knows to backfill to the database on the server with the missing data that the server had. So now you have one record, easily accessible, and accessibility is what it's all about, because when an inspector asks for data, you don't know what time frame, what period they're going to ask for, on what controlled environment, a freezer or a refrigerator or a clean room, a stability area.
Right.
So we monitor all these areas with on a customer's existing network, so they have all the data accessible, and through a browser, standard browser, so anywhere in the world that they can access their network, they can see the environment, get reports, and have data available.
That was going to be my last question. I think a lot of manufacturers are going to a more centralized oversight of all of their different environments, so that they can be anywhere in the world and log in and find out what's going on where. Are you seeing that as well, and does that still require some changes on the part of the industry?
Well, this is an enterprise-wide system, and I will say, though, that the caution is in centralized systems, which this actually is not. This is more distributed in the sense of a centralized system has many points of failure. Like any system, it can fail. But those points of failure can actually knock out either the signal, if it's a wireless. It can knock out the actual measurement device if it is a multiplexed, centralized piece where all of the data is going into and then multiplexing and going to a computer. So you can lose data that way. And we caution against centralized, kind of a hybrid, so point of measurement and centralized. So you really always know that the data is available. So yes, companies are going more, we still find many companies have chart recorders doing manual procedures. So I would say the trend, obviously, is to remove some of the labor and improve the statistical data collection.
Sure.
And so they're automating these processes with more enterprise-wide systems.